thank you all for coming. I'm Joe Alcock with Repower America, and it's really great that people came on such a nice day. But this is a really important thing. This is about clean energy, getting a federal climate change legislation passed in the next year, particularly because in this economy it will create a lot of jobs. So our panel today will be talking about the legislation, clean energy, and the jobs here in New Hampshire. And today on our panel we have Stephen Nodman from the Wentworth Institute of Technology, and we have Bob Backus, an environmentalist, a lawyer in Manchester, and we have Joe Casey from IBEW, the business manager here. And so I'll just turn it over to Stephen.
So I thought I would start out with kind of a little. I'm an environmental scientist, and I've been involved in environmental research and teaching for many decades. And from the 10,000-foot view, just kind of an overview, as a species, we've been around for about 200,000 years. The discovery and utilization of fossil fuels, starting about 200 years ago, only 200 years ago, with the Industrial Revolution, have been the greatest impetus for human development ever. We started out 200 years ago with about 1 billion people on Earth, and we're now at 6.7 billion. And all of the technology that we're sitting here with today was due to this tremendous gift of these fossil fuels. But the problem is the reality is it took about several 100 million years to create this stuff, and we humans will use it in less than 1,000 years. That's the reality. So we've probably got anywhere between today and maybe a maximum of 60 years before we reach the peak of oil production. There's a little bit of debate about that, but 60 years out of 200,000 year span of human development, that's not much. And in the maximum, probably 500 years for coal, depending upon how we use it. So the reality is we have associated impacts with the use of fossil fuels, with global warming and those issues. But even if that wasn't a problem, we'd still have to figure out how to get past the use of fossil fuels because it's a limited resource. That's the reality. We have to do that. We have to do it now, or we have to do it later. And the thing is, if we do it now, it's going to be less expensive to do it now, and it's going to be more benefit for future generations. We're kind of in a climate where some of these issues are being realized. We have the federal stimulus passage. We have a Climate Change Act. We have local legislation occurring in the Granite State that all give impetus to developing renewable resources and to making our systems more efficient so that we can utilize the energy that we have less wastefully. And the net result of that is that it's going to create jobs. It's already creating jobs. There's a recent study from the University of New Hampshire was published that said the opportunities are tremendous. Literally, in the next 10 years, there could be tens of thousands of new jobs created relative to these fields with an average pay salary of $54,000 a year. That's not bad. That's what the projections are. And this was done by the University of New Hampshire. So the thing is, how do we make use of that? How do we move into that? What are the opportunities? I happen to work at Wentworth Institute of Technology. Even though I'm an environmental scientist, most of the people there are engineers and architects. And we're training new generations in these green technologies. We have students doing co-op work in cellulosic ethanol companies, solar companies. One of our former students is a vice president of Cape Wind. So I think the opportunities are tremendous. And I mean, we're literally changing to a new world where blue-collar jobs are becoming green-collar jobs. And we need to figure out how to sustain that. The legislation that's in Congress now for the Climate Act, I mean, the major purpose of that is climate protection and a reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, but it will create new jobs through development of efficiencies, new energy technologies and things of that sort. There are also other sorts of things besides the stimulus package, specific bills on creating new energy technologies. Also, venture capital in the last year, even though very recently in the short term, it's, of course, with the financial breakdown, it's dried up. but a lot of venture capital in the last year has gone into these new green technologies. So we have a lot of opportunities here. That's from the high level. The folks around me are the ones who are more involved, and you in the audience are more involved with the actual hands-on. I tell people I like to come in and talk about all of kind of the highbrow stuff about how the earth works and how all these things function. But it's really the people who are going to learn how to use the wrenches and the screwdrivers and build the things. That's where the future lies. I talk to other ecologists and they say, to be a chemical engineer or a mechanical engineer or something today, that's the place to direct students. And there are a lot of kids. I have teenage daughters in New Hampshire myself. I work with students of all ages, and a lot of them are very excited. We've got students at Wentworth doing experiments, making different types of biofuels and hydrogen, and they're really excited about the field. So I think since I've been involved in this since the 1970s, I've never seen as much excitement, even in this economic downturn, in this entire time period. So I think we're kind of at a crucial turning point. I think the change in the financial world is actually forcing us to rethink everything, people from all over the country and all over the state. So it's an opportunity for great change, and I think we're at a point where the future is these new jobs and these new types of careers.